Yes. Always technically challenged. All right, let's move on. So here we have the Wheel of Fortune. P10 is first and foremost an expression of the law of rotation. The number 10 on the tree of life is the kingdom called Malkuth in Hebrew. It is the point of manifestation of the Spirit of God. It is where we live. Yes, in essence, we are pretty much blind to the rest of the tree of life. I'm going to swing that over so you can get a picture of what that looks like. So here's your tree of life. We're at the bottom down here, and we are oblivious to everything above. So therefore, we need to learn about those items. So one sec. I will move that over. And Sue Cavis is coming in. Okay, so here is evolution, involution, growth, regeneration, destruction, and all the opposing forces that are manifest in our lives. But we don't quite understand how they work. So the law of rotation, another law. So the law of rotation deals with the manifest world with all its limitations and mysterious laws. The Hebrew letter Kaf in the lower right-hand corner of the key down here represents a hand in the act of grasping, as you can see, drawn out there, a hand receiving. So it's understanding, receiving, and receiving. It is one of 7 double letters in the Hebrew alphabet. It stands for wealth and poverty. It appears that the lessons to be learned from this card will either bring you wealth or poverty into your life. So heads up, pay attention, depending on what you want. The card also states that you have the capability of grasping or understanding how the law of rotation works, which is a good sign. So.
Oh, I got a question.
Yeah, please.
Law of rotation. What is that a set of laws, and where do those laws come from?
Okay, the law of rotation we'll be discussing how it works, but you see the circle here. And I'm just about to explain how that works. It has to do with epigenesis, and that we never are in the same place. So we do not function in a circle. In other words, we never come back to a place we've been to before. It may appear that way, but we can never return to a previous place. We are continuously learning and evolving. So creation functions in spirals, not circles. So the sun we appear to go around the sun, but the sun is going through space. So we're evolving around it, but in a spiral formation. And that expresses the law of epigenesis and also grace. And we'll talk about that as we go through the card. So it is a law of rotation, and you'll get the idea of it as we go through the card. So you look at the card, which I will bring over here. So that's helpful. Let's see how we're going to set this up. All right, I will move us over. And I will move this over. Go. Okay, so look at the card. It consists of several circles. It even has the letters Rota, and that's R-O-T-A in the outer one. Becoming master of your life is an ideal situation. We all hope for the best on that one. So how do we get there? The previous cards so far have given you some very good suggestions. And those suggestions are understanding that you create your world, you're the doer. You also work with the subconscious mind. That's one of the characters in this book. and you've been taught how it manifests for you to some degree. So becoming a master of your life is an ideal situation. So how do we get there? The previous cards so far have given you some very good suggestions. The planet Earth rotates on its axis, but that's not the only thing going on as it flies through space around the sun. There's an additional element to the way the Earth rotates and evolves. Creation moves in a spiral, not just in circles. So the movement of life may appear to repeat itself, going round and round, but you never return to exactly where you left off. You will always end up in just a little bit better place than you were before, unless you really make an effort to make yourself miserable. You have to work at that. But you actually, the worries and anxieties in your life create possibilities for you to overcome them. They also come into your life because it's something you need to work on. You arrive with a soul. Back to the Fool card. So you've got this little pouch that he's carrying, which has your previous lifetimes all and recorded in there. So you arrive and it's the inner self, the star, the spark of God that's in you. But around that, your soul, your personality, your adventure, your trip is right around it, all recorded in that soul. And the High Priestess key has all those records. So this is about you, not about your neighbors or your family. We're talking just about you. So even though life appears to move around and you've seen things before, you keep doing the same old thing, you can never be the same. You are always in a different place. This is where the story of reincarnation and previous lives, the fascination with it, you can never, your consciousness has evolved from the place you were in a previous life. You could never fit your consciousness now into that life. So you might as well, that was a good one. You got a lot out of it. You moved on, but you could never go back into it. Now, if you were a tyrant in a previous life, or you were a king, or you were a pauper, or a healer, or just an ordinary Joe or a fisherman, all that's great. You learn things from that time. But now you're in a new place and you've accumulated experiences, but you could not go back. You can't even go back to where you were 10 minutes ago, because your consciousness is continuously evolving, and your body evolves depending on your consciousness. They're not separate. Material is never separate from spirit. So, but you never return to exactly where you left off. You will always end up in just a little bit better place than you were before. Thank God. Okay, so the intelligence of reconciliation is the Kabbalistic name for the awareness expressed by the letter Kaf. Here on Earth, we're always coming up against people who think quite differently than we do. How we reconcile those differences among our family members, friends, and even total strangers is dealt with here. That's what the Wheel of Fortune is all about. And you could say, how you spin it determines your wealth or poverty in this life. To reconcile a situation is to make an adjustment of differences in order to establish peace and harmony. This is where the promise, seek and ye shall find, comes into play. Change is always preceded by chaos. If you're in a chaotic situation, rather than going, I'm freaking out, you go, I wonder, what's this going to bring me? What's going on? Relax. Look at it, wonder about it. And by wondering, you open up a key to your communication with your creator, who's always here around us with us. And you get feedback. So if it seems that something's overwhelming, it's only because one, you need it to change, and two, check it out. Look at it differently, approach chaos differently. Okay, so the planet Jupiter is assigned to the letter Kaf. See the small symbol of Jupiter in the lower right-hand corner of the key. Once again, it's a tiny little guy down in here. In mythology, Jupiter is the ruler of all the gods. Astrologically, he is associated with the principles of growth, expansion, healing, prosperity, good fortune, and miracles. He also governs long distance and foreign travel, big business and wealth, higher education, religion, and the law. Today, I'd say that would pretty much cover all of the gods. That's every god that we can worship, if you think about it that way. So the letter Kaf covers the attitude of reconciliation of opposites and difficult situations in order to gain rulership of all the gods in your life. So I could repeat all those gods. I really like to have a higher education. I want wealth, religion, good fortune, miracles, healing. All those things have been made into gods by us. So he's covering all these bases. And the idea of the letter Kaf is to reconcile opposites and difficult situations in order to gain rulership of all of these tumultuous things that occur in your life or that you're interested in attaining or having. Going a step further, the planet Jupiter also rules the sign Cancer. This takes us to the Chariot card, where the wheels on which the chariot rolls are another representation of the law of rotation. And that card on the Tree of Life is considered the intelligence of the house of influence. The Wheel of Fortune is considered the rewarding intelligence, yes, on the Tree of Life. I'm looking for all the rewards I can come up with. These two cards being closely connected makes perfect sense to me. So the Kabbalah says that nothing is left to chance. It says that the laws of creation are always at work, but we are blind to them, just as we are to most of the activities on the Tree of Life above the kingdom, which I showed you. We pretty much have no clue as to how they work. And it would be a living kingdom of God for us if we just spend a little more time looking at it more closely, rather than just running around on top of it like chickens with our heads cut off. The general way of doing things. Slow down and wonder. Something's in front of you. Wonder about it. When you wonder, you create a conversation with the inner self, which will explain it to you if you're quiet enough. And it takes practice. There's certain ways you can set up patterns of practice so that it becomes a regular part of your life. Getting answers from inside you, not trying to figure things out or asking Google, because you've got Google on steroids inside you. You have God inside you. So history repeats itself. The affairs of mankind repeat themselves. There are cycles, ups and downs of events that appear to have a life of their own. That is not so. These cycles are always a result of preceding events, thought patterns, and old habits. We just failed to take these prior activities into consideration, even from the clues that they leave behind. The great work, here symbolized by the wheel, is an acknowledgement, recognition of the advances mankind has made over time to pull himself out of previous mistakes and judgments. So I'm telling you about the card, but I will go over the symbology on the card as to how that reading is there within the symbols. So looking at the card, there are 4 fixed signs of the zodiac placed in clouds. Clouds are used in the cards to represent our inability to see what's in them with our senses. So we're talking our 5 senses. And we've had previous discussions that there's more than meets the eye, that your senses are not at the source, your God being inside. They're the result. So at some point, you will be able to see without your eyes and hear without your ears and taste without your tongue and feel without your hands, because that's at source. That's at the creator, which is within you. And then the body is a reflection of that creator on all levels. We've just forgotten things. And so the tarot is here to trigger our memory of those things. In the same manner, a cloud was used in the Lover's card to hide Archangel Raphael. The 4 fixed signs on the Wheel of Fortune are the bull for Taurus, the lion for Leo, the eagle for Scorpio, and the man for Aquarius. Why use fixed signs? Numerically, they are 2, 5, 8, and 11, which adds to 26. This is also the number of Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, which is inscribed on the inner white garment of the Fool. So we're getting a little more esoteric here. So we are looking at the holy name of our Creator hidden behind the clouds in the form of the fixed signs of the zodiac. Here we have represented that which never changes and is unseen and unknown to us. This is in contrast to the wheel, which is always moving and changing where we're hanging out. Any questions about that? It's just getting used to what this, if you get to the idea of each symbol, then you can understand what this chapter or card is expressing. So we're hanging out here, and the 4 elements and representative of God is behind the clouds, out of sight. And for some people, out of sight, out of mind, and then for others, out of sight, but not out of mind. The acquisition of the wisdom and understanding of how we create is called the great work. So let's now look at the wheel in the center of the card. It is a chart of the various worlds in which we live and an expression of how those worlds are created to become the one we live in. So this is nice, this little chart here. Based on the Kabbalah, the wheel's center or pivot is the archetypal world, right in there. And as you recall, on the tarot tableau, the first row are archetypal symbols. So that would be the magician, the high priestess, the empress, the emperor, the lovers, the chariot, and the hierophant, or the teacher. Those are considered archetypal symbols, sort of the very inner thoughts getting. The middle circle is the formative world. That's in here. The outer circle is the material world, where the term rota is. The 8 spokes are like the 8-pointed star in key 17, the star, the card of revelation and meditation. This star represents the quintessence, the spiritual energy from our sun. The circle in the middle is repeated 10 times on the cloak of the Fool, the inner self. When we create, we always begin from the source, the center. And then our creation works its way out through the next two worlds. So we start out in here, we come to here, and then out here for manifestation. Hold on. Okay. Good. So when we create, remember, we always begin from the source. That's what I was talking about, your ability, your five senses. You actually function without a body, but you're not used to it. But in reality, your intuition or that is actually working at a different level. You're sort of like, here we are in the third dimension, but we have 1 foot in the fourth dimension, and that's our intuition. I got a hunch. I wonder what that is. I heard something. There's music. All that little touching on that. So we always begin from the source, the center, and our creation works its way out through the next two worlds and finally becomes manifest in the material world. Yay! I have this little mouse gadget. That's final manifestation right there. Somebody's idea was the archetype. And then it was created. We're used to creating with our hands and making things. But since there's only mind that exists, you can bypass the hands, which is what the hanged man does. His hands are behind his back, and that expresses that he creates totally with just his mind. That's called trusting God for the outcome. On the spokes of the wheel in the middle circle are three alchemical symbols, one for Mercury above, that's this little guy. 2, sulfur to the right, that's sulfur. 3, salt to the left. Mercury is the directing consciousness, the magician. Sulfur stands for passion and activity, which we know without it, nothing moves. And salt stands for ignorance and inertia. Actually, it allows things to manifest, to become present here. We've taken all the energy and we have made it so it can be apparent at this level of creation, at this level of vibration. At the bottom of the same circle is the astrological symbol for Aquarius, which is the alchemical symbol for dissolution. Dissolution is a fundamental process of the great work. You have to be able to dissolve things, not only create, but dissolve them. There is a yellow serpent descending on the left side of the wheel. Its wavy motions suggest vibration. Delightful. And the yellow implies mental equilibrium, balance, intellect, and the elements air and light. So here we have the all moving into the conditions of name and form. Ascending the right side is the jackal-headed Egyptian god Hermes, Anubis. The jackal has an excellent sense of smell, implying the sense of discernment and discrimination. You ever use the term, that doesn't quite smell right? You know, that person's running out of story. It doesn't really smell right. So it's used in that regard. Here is the evolution of consciousness from lower to higher forms. His ears rise above the horizontal diameter of the wheel to show that through the ability to listen from within, man is beginning to gain some knowledge of this cycle of evolution. His red color expresses desire, courage, strength, and activity. And therefore, red, as we know, unless you have a red, you're not moving. It's the color of activity. Above him is a segment of the wheel containing the yod. Right there. the symbol for wisdom supported by understanding. We will be moving beyond an intellectual level and requiring an organic change to our makeup. The distillation that takes place within us accomplishes the great work. Here, the personal ego identifies through the heart with the Ancient of Days, the Hermit. There's nothing wrong with your ego. Without your ego, you probably wouldn't be here listening to me rattle on about all of this. It got you here. When the ego moves through your heart, the whole world opens to you, because one of the great avatars, Jesus, taught love. So Moses taught the rule of law, and things started crystallizing because mankind just went, whoopee, we'll make 3 billion laws. And then it all got too complicated to accomplish our return to God. Jesus showed up to break up that crystallization and said, all you need is love. I think they even made a song about it. I think it was the Beatles or something like that. All you need is love. With love, though, is developed through trust. It's very necessary. So the blue sphinx represents the perfection of this identification with the hermit. That a feminine. And you'll notice that there are only 2 swords held, and they're both held by women. So I'd be really careful about this. Justice Key, she also has a sword. You got to get past her to get to the light, and she's holding that sword, and we will be looking at her soon. But here we have the first sword. Something to think about. The feminine has to be exalted. And the feminine is a subconscious mind, that which you create through. So she carries a sword, a weapon corresponding to the formative world, the middle circle, which is right before material manifestation. She uses right discrimination to unfold the use of the inner senses into the material world. Yes, these inner senses exist. When this unfoldment comes, the all fills our awareness. The wheel turns while the Sphinx just is, never moves. Its blue color reminds us of memory, the subconscious mind. And now we've become aware that this whole journey is really just self-recollection. You just are here to remember who you really are. And when you remember who you really are, it's really cool. And then you start playing with it. The Sphinx reminds me of key 8 strength, which was the woman holding the head of the tiger. She has a woman's head and breasts, but here she's combined with the body of a male lion. So we have the perfect blending of 2 opposite powers, the union of male and female. This would never work from a lower level of perception, because everything's duality in the manifest world. So Paul Foster Case created a transposition of the letters tarot. I love this. This is delightful, which are placed in the outer circle. He arranged them to make the following 5 words: Rota, Tarot, Orat, Torah, Ator. Translated, they mean the wheel of tarot speaks the law of nature. Ator is an old Latin form of the name of the Egyptian goddess Hathor. She was the goddess of the sky, of women, and of fertility and love. In essence, Mother Nature. So there you have the Wheel of Fortune. Any questions about this particular card?
That is really packed.
Yeah,
That
I
card.
know.
Amazing.
The one thing about these cards is if you color your own cards, that's great, because you can stare at them. You can go back and listen to the lesson, because it's like peeling an onion. That's how I felt when I first started studying this about 25 years ago. I went, oh, this is really cool. And then I went, oh my God, it's really cool. It was like, because it was helping me understand how to operate on the planet Earth. But each card is a key, and that's why they're called keys. So let's move on. Now, there's one thing I'm interested in doing, and we're going to move on to the Justice card. But I'd like to bring up something talking about Paul Case that he created, which I found very helpful when I entered the Holy Order that I went into for 5 years. Another reason why I never bought a car that during those years, 25 to 30, which is called the pattern on the trestle board. And I'll bet many of you have heard of this. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. And move this over. And it was handed to me in the order, the Holy Order of Bands. And I was like, what is this? Never saw this before. This is interesting. And later found out that it was created by Paul Case, and absolutely fabulous. So this is a wonderful way to use the subconscious mind. And he said to recite this in the evening before retiring. So you go on to automatic pilot, so to speak. You let the subconscious mind manifest what's said in this in your life the next day. That's how you can work the subconscious mind. I wish somebody taught me that when I was studying French in high school. I really had a hard time. But I think if I had done all of my studying and right before going to sleep, and on I go, the next day it would have been easier because it was like going uphill. My French 2 teacher saw me for 2 years. And so we will leave it at that. He was real glad to graduate me. Okay, so the pattern on the trestle board can be found in Paul Foster Case's book, The Tarot, A Key to the Wisdom of the Ages, in the chapter Occult Meaning of Numbers. It is a series of affirmations used by his organization called the Builders of the Addendum. He recommended reciting this in the evening before retiring or going to sleep. It's like using a reset button on both your body and your mind to the reality of who you are. So we're going back to source by reading this. This is a major reminder item. So it's a great spiritual exercise. Thus, while you sleep, your body sets to this task so that upon awakening, you are a step closer to that realization. Using the Tree of Life, also to be found in his book and pictured below, will help you to remember the pattern and the main attributes of the Tree of Life. And this is one we put together, but that's just to remind you. So if you do 0 is everything behind, and then 1, okay, 1, 2, 3. So as you read this, 4, 5, think in terms of have a Tree of Life in front of you so you can get a feeling about it. Another thing is by doing this, you activate what's so wonderful about creation. You activate a response. When you are interested in going within and finding out more about creation, creation gets excited and provides more information to you in many different ways. It's like having a grandmother, as in not grandmother, but a grandmother, Mother Nature. More will be given to you based on where you place your attention. Okay, so this is the truth about the self. You would recite the whole thing, including this pattern. And if you all close your eyes, I will recite it. And at some point, you all can come back and check it out on this little website. Okay, this is the truth about the self. 0. All the power that ever was or will be is here now. 1. I am a center of expression for the primal will to good, which eternally creates and sustains the universe. 2. Through me, its unfailing wisdom takes form in thought and word. 3. Filled with understanding of its perfect law, I am guided moment by moment along the path of liberation. 4. From the exhaustless riches of its limitless substance, I draw all things needful, both spiritual and material. 5. I recognize the manifestation of undeviating justice in all the circumstances of my life. 6. In all things, great and small, I see the beauty of the divine expression. 7. Living from that will, supported by its unfailing wisdom and understanding, mine is the victorious life. 8. I look forward with confidence to the perfect realization of the eternal splendor of the limitless light. 9. In thought and word and deed, I rest my life from day to day upon the sure foundation of eternal being. 10. The kingdom of spirit is embodied in my flesh. Everyone take a deep breath. Just remember, when you breathe in God. When you exhale, God breathes in you. You are not separate at all. So let's move on to Justice, that sword wielding lady. All right. Here she is. All right, let's move. This is good. So Justice, see the sword? Only people holding a sword in this deck are the subconscious mind. The sword, okay, you're cutting a steak. You want to cut the fat off, or you use a sword for discrimination. It uses a sword to make a nice steak. A cutting instrument cuts things out, but also cuts things in. If you want to work on something, you can take your sword and you can go in a circle all the way around, swing around, come back, and decide, I'm just going to work on this stuff inside, and all the rest can take care of itself. It's all too much. I'm just going to do what I have decided on here. It's a good way to use the sword. Because sometimes the world is overwhelming and you just have to decide, are you kidding? Especially since we know what's going on the opposite side of the planet all the time. God help us. We can't be there. We can't do anything. We're not in control. So you can decide, use your sword, discrimination. Discrimination just means I'm not going to deal with that stuff right now. I'm just going to deal with this, and that's good. And then when your consciousness grows, that stuff is easier to deal with. What's beyond your control. The foundation of key 11, justice, is the law of equilibrium. Okay, another law, and we will find out what that means. Equilibrium means balance, and she is holding a weighing scale. So we're going to find out what is the point of equilibrium? Why do we have to know about it and understand it? The background being guarded by justice is the same color shown behind both the magician and strength. Yellow signifies mental equilibrium and intellect. So there's the yellow, but you got to get past her to get to it. Of the 4 elements, yellow represents air, a symbol for the steel sword of daring, discrimination, creating forms. You ever make an ice sculpture? They use swords, and all sorts of metal things that make an ice sculpture. And then you end up with this beautiful sculpture. You're creating forms. Just want to mention that. Let me get my, go up here. Yellow also indicates alchemical mercury, a place of superconscious mental activity. So how do we get past the guardian, Justice, who's brandishing a sword, to enter this glorious space behind her? Mercury gives us a hint. So I'll drag it over in a sec. In order to reach the place behind her, Mercury tells you to take a good look at your subconscious mind and how it functions. It acts in the feminine aspect of receptivity. Receptive to who? To you, to your self-conscious mind. You do the directing. You determine where you place your attention. You pick where you place your attention. And thereby, you send a signal to your subconscious mind based on what you're looking at or thinking about. Then the subconscious mind uses that signal to create and deliver in spades back to you what you've placed your thoughts and attention on. And now you get to live with it. Enjoy. Hopefully you weren't thinking too many negative thoughts, because that's very unpleasant. So, in other words, Mercury is telling you that your gaining unity with the essence of creation is dependent on where and how you place your attention throughout your day. Seems simple enough, pretty straightforward, and this determines exactly what your subconscious mind delivers to you in your life, hook, line, and sinker. This requires discrimination on your part and a little responsibility. I don't know what happened. How did that happen? Oh, it's coincidental. Yeah, right. Sorry, didn't work out that way. So let's bring her over. And we'll move us over. And we can keep an eye on her. All right, responsibility. You are responsible. Oh, I want to mention, if you can get back to the point where you were the Fool card, no responsibility. The guy's hanging out, self, everything, not. You take 1 foot off into the world of experience and you are responsible for everything. Every single card exudes responsibility. Good luck with that. So you should try discrimination. And if things bother you, pull a sword out and look at it and go, need to use this more often. So if you figure this out through trial and error, you will learn that raising up the signals your subconscious mind is receiving from you will then transform your subconscious mind over time into the Holy Grail. You know that search for the Holy Grail they talk about? There you go. And then your whole life will be lined up with creation. That's because it will be taking all of its suggestions directly from the inner self, rather than the misguided information of the outer world. Have you ever made a difficult situation into a living hell? This will help you leave those events behind. When you gain the equilibrium of all 3 states of your mind, superconscious, self-conscious, and subconscious, you can access the inspiration of spiritual wisdom, that place behind justice, back here. Lovely place back there. That's the place where opposing forces or influences are balanced. So that's great fun back there. We'll move her over just a little so we can read everything. Let's explore the card a little further to see how this is expressed. Whenever there are 2 similar items on a card, we're looking at the ideas of duality and polarity. So you've got these 2 guys matching each other. If they're arranged symmetrically, then we're looking at a suggestion of balance. So that would also bring you back to the High Priestess. She has these pillars behind her. On this card, we see two sets of drapes, both tied back the same way, and two pillars on her throne. We are reminded of the structure of the high priestess card, but the coloring is quite different on this card. The drapes behind her throne are violet, edged with red, and tied back with red ties. Violet is associated with the planet Jupiter and red with the planet Mars. We covered Jupiter and the Hebrew letter Kaf assigned to it at length on the Wheel of Fortune. It is an indicator of spiritual power and truth. In mythology, Jupiter is the ruler of all the gods, which I itemized to you, all the things you worship, who I named on key number 10. The letter Kaf covers the attitude of reconciliation of opposites and difficult situations in order to gain rulership of all the gods in your life. So again, this card's symbols are discussing attaining balance in your life, but it's now taking key 10 a step further. You know, when we have all these different gods, which are our beliefs or things that our tribe, family, nation, or state, or area in which we live, if it's up on a mountain, we don't see too many people doing it. Those concepts that we've created to make our life easier. So if you do live up on a mountain, you probably have a gun so that you can shoot deer or whatever and live, as opposed to living in a city in an apartment. And you have certain ways that you conduct your life. But some of those are not really lined up with creation. So you have difficulties in your life. So the rulership of all the gods in your life are also your underlying premises and concepts that you may want to change your mind about by placing your mind someplace else. So on this card, the violet drapes are barely showing the yellow background where we're headed. This tells us that all those gods, which manifest as Mother Nature, including all our likes and dislikes, are hiding the superconscious plane of mental activity. They hide it from us. They stand between us and God and creation. And since we are only looking with our physical eyes, we aren't going to see the one identity behind the curtains. But on this card, the drapes are beginning to open just a little bit. This is where Mars, the red color on the curtains tiebacks, comes in. Red is the color of activity with courage and strength, because man, most of your friends want to go this way, and you're like, well, what about going that way? So courage and strength are sometimes needed to walk this path and be curious and interested in finding out about creation. Just keep an eye out for the sword. Yeah, I ended that a little soon. So let's say that we are like a farmer or a gardener who plants his seeds in the dirt. He can't see them, but he applies water and cultivates the soil. At a certain point, little green sprouts appear. Not all of the sprouts are from the seeds that he planted. Oops. Possibly the wind and bird droppings, pesky birds, have added seeds from unknown sources. He must be diligent to separate these weeds from his crop. So there he is, checking things out. Your subconscious mind is like the farmer's dirt. At first, you can't see the little sprouts or results in your life of the seeds or ideas that you have planted in your subconscious mind. These are the good things that you wish to have in your life. But the subconscious mind is just a recording device. Go back to the high priestess. She's just a recording device. Oh, I remember the high priestess. I should read my own stuff here. And without discrimination. So she has no discrimination. She delivers what you look at. Anything can land in it, just like weeds in the dirt. When your ideas or plans begin to appear in your life, you're thrilled. But then you look around and find many events appearing in your life which you don't think came from you and that you may not like. Oops.
Mhm.
The fulfillment center of your subconscious mind is perfect. I think it's even better than Amazon. I will mention that. They have a fulfillment center, but this is really over the top. No refunds, no returns. So you can't blame her. But everything that you gave attention to, and especially with passion and activity, including musical lyrics and dancing, all those lyrics that you were singing to yourself that might not have been too positive, they make a big dent in her delivery system. She goes, here, you can have that. You like that. You're singing it, on and on. Movies, relationships, even what you're thinking while you're driving in heavy traffic. You want to kill the guy next. Why doesn't he get out of the way? What is he doing? Or the guy tailgating you. I'm going to kill him. If he gets closer to me, I'm going to slam on the brakes. All of that stuff, there you are, is recorded diligently by your receptive, feminine, subconscious mind. In the strength card, I mentioned that what we think, say, and do throughout the day furnishes the bulk of the impressions received by our subconscious mind. I'm going to stop here. This is why doing the pattern on the trestle board is really helpful. It kind of cleans all that junk out. You're like, redirect subconscious mind. This is really who I am. I'm going to recite this to you tonight. And she goes, oh, okay, and delivers that. All right. All that manifests, including Mother Nature, is delivered through the subconscious mind. That's the only way it gets here. Go back and look at key 8. Get to know it inside and out. Your life depends on your relationship with her. Remember, there's only 3 characters in this book. The throne repeats the dual symbolism of the pillars of the high priestess, though here the pillars are part of the throne. Also different, at the top of each pillar, the lotus buds on the high priestess have been replaced by pomegranates. The activity on the justice card now bears fruit. And so the drapes are being pulled apart. You get what you ask for, the caveat being whether you know how it happened or not. Justice's crown, her authority, resembles the letter Shin, which is one of the 3 Hebrew mother letters. Shin resembles 3 flames rising up from a fiery base. It symbolizes the element fire, which signifies the white wand of willpower. Remember that back in the magician's hand? Oh, it would have been, yeah, this hand, and he pointed. The sound of the letter sh is used universally when someone wants to create silence. Thus, the letter Shin reminds us of the 4 injunctions of the masters: will, dare, and be silent. This takes us to the idea that serpents are recognized by the ancient teachings as symbols of wisdom. They are silent, subtle creatures. Jesus told his disciples to be wise as serpents, the ancient doctrine of silence. The great secret cannot be told because it is only through experience that it may be realized. You can't do it in your head. You have to bring it all the way into earth. I'm going to pull out the tree of life so you can look at it. And don't get stuck here. Intellectual discussion, arguments, you got to bring it into earth. Proof is in the pudding. All our mothers told us that. You got to have the proof in fire, air, earth, and water. You have to bring it into earth, no matter how simple. You make a cake and you follow all the directions and you forget the eggs. It's flat. So if you're going to cook your life and make it, you got to include all the ingredients, understand how they work, and then see how it works. Here we are. Are you healthy, wealthy, wise? Unless that's not one of your gods. So, the great secret cannot be told because it is only through experience it may be realized. And that's your experience. That's why you are so special. That is why you are a star. And no one else is the same as you are. Your personality is yours. And therefore, that takes judgment right out the door. Because how can you judge another when you look in the mirror and you go, oh my God, this is me. I'm great. I'm wonderful. So I have to be kind to myself. Her crown represents the serpent power, the kundalini released from the base of our spine and moved up to our crown. Through the raising of the kundalini, we can overcome the limitations of three-dimensional understanding of experience. We are opening our 5 spiritual senses. This is how we enter the space behind justice. The shape of the Hebrew letter Lamed is that of a serpent. Lamed represents inner discipline and self-regulation. No one else can get you there but you. And how you get there is to be really quiet and hang out with God. And then God will show you the way. As a verb, it means to teach. As a noun, it means ox goad. There is a symbol of an ox goad in the lower right-hand corner of the card, right there. If we stray from that, we must have meaning in our lives. If we stray from that, Lamed, the ox goad, brings us back to balance. So we must have meaning in our lives. If we stray from that, Lamed, the ox goad, brings us back, which is this card. The scales also symbolize this principle of balance, maintaining balance. Teth in the strength card represents a coiled serpent. Here, Lamed is the same snake, uncoiled and active. There is a lot of red on this card. On the front of her crown, we have a red circle within a white square, red for activity and white for purity. A circle represents the creator, so we have holy activity manifesting through purity of thought. It's right up here on her head. Her crown is an expression of her authority. Crowns are always authority. On a larger scale, we see the Wheel of Fortune. We see on the Wheel of Fortune the circles of life surrounded by the 4 fixed signs, represent the 4 elements of manifestation. Both the symbol on Justice's breast and the handle of her sword are in the form of a T-cross. So we have this and this. So now we've got both in front of us, but I'm going to leave it there because she will slide down. The handle of the sword is gold, the metal of the sun. The cross on her dress is indigo, the color of the planet Saturn. Saturn signifies limitation, the creation of form. The sun expresses radiating light, the illumination. So here we have the use of limitation and restriction in combination with the radiating power of the sun. This is the underlying essence of Mother Nature. The wrap over her shoulders and the overall color of her crown are green. Green reminds us of the Empress, Venus, and love and the subconscious. Justice is in harmony with Mother Nature. Green is the color of the sun Libra. Beneath her wrap is a red robe. Here we have a message that all of her activity supports and exalts love. Red is the color of the planet Mars, reminding us of the conscious plane of mental activity. But she's crowned with green with love, and she's embraced her cloak is love. Paramount. Both her throne and the platform upon which she rests are made of gray colored stone. Ah, we know that word stone. Does anybody remember? Here we are. Gray is the combination of white and black. Once again, here's a reference to balance and equilibrium as the foundation of justice. Two opposites combined. The word stone in Hebrew is spelled E-B-E-N. In Kabbalah, it symbolizes that the Father and Son are one. So justice is resting upon that knowing. So when it says Father and Son are one, it means you know it. Not somebody told you it. You know it through experience. So she's resting on a cube of stone. In Hebrew means ben. Father and Son are one, not through intellectual devices, but through actually knowing it from within, like this radiating energy that you can experience. Justice is holding a sword, a symbol of discrimination, also a great pruning device. I was gardening today. Yeah, definitely needed my prunes. Oh my God, I hacked things up. We are always being improved by the activity of justice, a pruning device. Mother Nature controls everything, including the bodies in which we live. Don't take things personally when you start pruning away the things in your life. It's not a bad thing. Well, this didn't work out. I think I'll get rid of that. Not do that anymore. No, I'll go over here and try something over here. Pruning device. You wish to make a change in your environment and the body in which you live? Pay attention to how you work with your subconscious mind. Take a look at the strength card. Your suggestions must be subtle, like you're speaking to a lover. We talked about that on the strength card. You can't shout at God and say, do this, do that. Oh my God, I'm blah, 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 blah. No, doesn't go. Doesn't. Oh, sweetie, hi. What are you going to get me today? What are you going to do for me today? I love you. Love, sweetness. God works really well that way. The subconscious mind just laps it up. Quiet. Ah. Pay attention to how you work with your subconscious mind. Take a look at the strength card. Your suggestions must be subtle, like you're speaking to a lover. Work and action are the key words here. Venus rules Libra, so we are seeing the Empress at work. The Empress is the mother of ideas. The zodiacal sign Libra is also attributed to Lamid, the Hebrew letter of this card. Libra means scales, indicating balance. When you're in balance, you're in peace. You're at peace. When you need to make a change in your life, you go, well, this isn't quite working out. Let's try something out. You don't go freak out and hit your head against a wall. Subconscious mind doesn't like that at all. And your head doesn't work out either. Venus is connected with creative imagination. The tarot calls imagination into action. Imagination builds faith. True imagination, not mere fantasy, rests on the firm foundation of science. Faith is a prime requisite for the accomplishment of the great work because faith builds confidence. Read the works and stories about Jesus, Buddha, and other great avatars and teachers. Self-confidence. You have a small child. You're now going into phase 2, how to make your bed with the child. The child figures it out, you go through this, and the child comes running into you, look, I made my bed. And you go, oh, you did such a wonderful job, you did so well, it's beautiful. And your child has a little more self-confidence. You have been attaining small steps. With God, you do this in small steps. You're You don't storm heaven. You don't look at it as a 10-story building going, I'm going to just jump to the top. No, you walk up a staircase or the escalator, and there's also possibly an elevator that goes a little quicker, depending on where you place your attention. We all are going to the top. But faith is a prime requisite for the accomplishment of the great work, because faith builds confidence. Oh my God, I healed my hand. Gee, I didn't do it last week, and maybe next week it won't work again, but I could try that again. That's why I like healers. Like Mark Ehrlichs is a dear friend who's a healer, and he opens up all sorts of tools that we can use to build our faith working with God. It's great fun. I laugh a lot in his classes. The whole point is that your joy and your life depend on no one but you. This is responsibility. There it is, all the cards. All of the cards in the tarot, major arcana, are filled with responsibility. Stuff happens. The choice is yours as to how you will deal with it. Sometimes the choices are limited and really tough, but it's on you. When obstacles are in your way, you are not happy, to say the least in most cases. That's the same as being ill. You can forget what's happening in the last row of the tarot tableau if you are not well. The Justice Key teaches that the way to cultivate health is by being very careful. Use your tools. You're the magician. This means that you have to eliminate anything that runs counter to the laws of nature. If you don't want to eliminate that which is counter to life in your life, the Book of Formation tells us that the laws of life will have you at their mercy. It takes daring to stay in the game. The Kabbalah doesn't tell you to abstain from the joys of living. The point is to get the most out of life. Go about your daily tasks earnestly, no matter how trivial they may seem. Go about your work in a poised, quiet manner. Teach your body the meaning of balance. I started taking yoga to help me with breathing and balance, but it ended up really helping me to quiet my mind. Something I hadn't expected. One breath, one movement. Doing something physical is a potent suggestion to your subconscious mind that you wish it to set to work to bring your whole organism into balance. Fear not. Banish the mood of haste. Take a walk. We do live forever, guys. Just want to mention that. So get out and enjoy it. You live forever. You do. Sorry, didn't mean to surprise you with that. So that's it. So have a good time. Any questions? And that's why I tossed in the pattern on the trestle board, because it is really, you kind of got to get ahead of your mind where you've placed all your thinking all day. And at the end of the day, you read this thing and it's like, okay, reset. Yes, I'm perfect. Yes, I'm a star. Yes, I have a solar system, my body. And I'm now going to go to sleep on that and not all the other weird things I was thinking all day. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed this. It's kind of like, let's all take a good look at ourselves and enjoy life. Enjoy. Life is here to have a really good time and not be too intense. And work the subconscious, your subconscious mind. So remember, again, the three guys in your life are the superconsciousness, that center of your heart, like the sun in the sky. Your conscious mind, which directs your subconscious mind to deliver things to you. Where you place your attention is what you're asking to be delivered to you. So you don't panic. We all make, I do face plants from time to time. Almost got hit by a car today. I wasn't watching. Didn't look both ways. Your relationships, the fun in your life. And when you start placing your attention on creation, it places more attention to you. You actually get to hear it. You hear music? Anybody else hear that music today? No, just you did. It's just fun. This is all, and it's, you know, being on the planet Earth is so difficult because most people, all you see is all there is. So they don't realize that there's all this other stuff that they can work with. When you go to God, God comes to you. That's what's so cool. Little things. I get little things like, I'm going out the door and I get your keys. I'm serious. Oh yeah, where are my keys? But I hear it, I'm going out the door to have your keys. It's really cool. It's very simple, very subtle. I go by the chapel. I get a little thing. The candle, I have an eternal flame that I keep going all the time. The candle, oh, hadn't thought about that in three days. I open the door, oh, it's down like that. And oh, didn't let it go out. Every little thing. You wonder about things, wondering. Look at a flower. Somebody gives you flowers. Not just say, oh, they're beautiful, thank you. Look at them. Wonder about them. Where did you grow? Where did you come from? Nature talks to you. It's so cool. So I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we're moving on to 2 more cards. It's delightful. And good. Everything okay? You're all quiet. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question, Margot.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I don't know if this is too technical, but you said the Father and the Son are one.
Yeah.
And when you look at the tree of life, is the
Okay.
Father, when you say Father, are you referring to the number 1 at the very top?
I'm referring to all, everything. The Father, God is with us, not separate. So when I put my hands out like this, I'm feeling God is all around me. That God, everything that is, there's nothing that isn't God. And I'm conscious of that is nothing but God. I know it. I know when I close my eyes what I see. I know. I just know this. So that's what I'm saying by the Father and Son are one. It's not in the tree of life, it's the experience that I can call on help and get an answer. And I know it. It's like, you know it. So I know where I've been, I know where I am, I know where I'm going, and I don't need anybody else or anything else. And yet I love all the people that come into my life. But this sense of, I don't ask other people's opinions. Well, I do if, you know, does my outfit look good or whatever. But what I'm saying is it's an awareness that is so ingrained in me that life is joyful because of that. Anything?
Can I say something? Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
like-
You
go ahead.
finish.
Go on.
Thank you for explaining how it, you know, the spiritual aspect of it. I would say that I think the famous Kabbalistic saying of the Father and the Son are one, that the stone, bin, the way it breaks down Kabbalistically, if that's what the person's asking on the tree of life, The Hebrew word for father is ab, like Abba. So it's Aleph and Beth. It's the fool and the magician. Those two keys. That's the father. Okay.
Okay.
And then Ben is Beth and the letter Nun, right? The transformation key. And so Ben means son in Hebrew, and Ab means father. And so when you add Ab and then Ben together in Hebrew, that combination means stone.
Yes.
Oh, do you see? So the father, Ab, and Ben together form stone, and they are one. Now, the one way to practice one of the practices of Kabbalists is to take those keys in tarot and to lay them out in front of oneself, and just like we do, we ask the questions and you meditate on those combinations, and it brings forth from the subconscious or the superconscious through the subconscious revelations to you personally, like Margot says, to wonder about. But taking that key, the Ab and the Ben, and them together, and then just meditating on them will bring you revelations of what the inner wisdom, what that means for you personally.
Yes.
Is that simple? And that's not too complex, right?
Right.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you're
stone.
welcome.
Yeah. Stone is used throughout the Bible for this is the stone. Peter's the founding stone of the church or whatever. But he's talking
Right.
about the knowing, the Kabbalistic knowing of that, which is stone represents the knowing. And yes, putting those two cards in front of you would have very good results. It's a knowing. It's a knowing that no one delivers to you. No one explains to you. You get it from inside out.
And you can get Kabbalistic, like, you don't have to know Hebrew to study the Hebrew letters and tarot and Kabbalah, but you can get like resources. I'm sure Margot probably has them, where it'll show you what Hebrew letters form the word stone or father or son. Right? That's a whole different level of practice. But building this foundation that we're doing now will allow you to, when you read something Kabbalistically, they do it for a reason, and then you can take it for yourself and be like, huh, and you can spend
a lot of time on it.
lifetimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eli has been studying this for a very long time, and I am hoping that he at some point will teach a class for us down the road. Yes.
Thank you. That'd be my pleasure.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, having the combination, the cards combined in really lovely. So this is an overview which I'm giving. And maybe down the road he'll be able to do something a little more in depth for combinations of cards and how they trigger the subconscious mind to reveal to you from within. But it's an aha experience that it's like, it's so different than someone telling you. And that's what's so revealing. Okay. Thank you, Eli. I much appreciate that. And I know everybody else here does too. So everyone, see you next week. Enjoy your week. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.